Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be. My name is Ian Brzezinski. I'm a senior fellow here at the Atlantic Council. And welcome to our session, 3Cs Initiative, Where Do We Go From Here? This is part of Warsaw Week, which has been an opportunity to highlight the US-Poland relationship, but also the key dynamics, events, and initiatives that define Central and Eastern Europe and the broader transatlantic community. The 3Cs Initiative is a prime example of Central European leadership, self-initiative, and strategic thinking. The Central Europeans launched and led this undertaking to accelerate the development of cross-border energy, transport, and digital infrastructure across the region between the Baltic, the Black, and Adriatic Seas. The initiative addresses a structural deficiency inherited from the Cold War that created an infrastructure gap between Western Europe on the one hand, and Central and Eastern Europe on the other, including insufficient north-south cross-border connectivity. Poland's President Andrzej Duda, and his Croatian counterpart, Kolinda Grabar-Kitarovic, back in 2016, offered an innovative solution, a multilateral effort to harness geoeconomic potential of Central and Eastern Europe and the power of private capital to drive forward regional infrastructure development. The institutional cornerstone of the 3Cs Initiative, is the 3Cs Initiative Investment Fund, which is in making investments on a commercial basis to improve cross-border connectivity. And that connectivity has the potential to be a powerful driver of regional growth, prosperity, innovation, economic resilience, and also military security. In many ways, infrastructural connectivity is as important to completing the vision of a Europe that's undivided, that's whole, free, and at peace, as is NATO and EU membership. After accepting Ukraine as a partner country in the 2022 Riga Summit, 3Cs Riga Summit, the initiative now has the opportunity to welcome Ukraine as a full member. That, in my view, would be fully consistent with this mission of improving regional connectivity and completing Europe. I imagine that Ukraine, its reconstruction and integration to a wider Europe, is going to be a top priority at the upcoming 3Cs Summit and Business Forum, which Romania will host this September in Bucharest. This Summit and Business Forum will be an opportunity to take decisive action and to prioritize projects that define the 3Cs Initiative and to reaffirm and deepen its credibility across global investment networks. For these reasons, the upcoming Bucharest Summit, take place this September, could prove to be an important inflection point for the initiative and the role that it plays in the geoeconomics and security of the transatlantic community. To consider these issues and to explore the agenda of the upcoming Bucharest Summit, I'm delighted to welcome an esteemed panel today with representatives from the Polish, Romanian, and Lithuanian governments, as well as the Polish Development Bank, BGK. This panel that we're convening today really is a multinational in its membership. And let me introduce George Agavițe, who is the state councilor for the government of Romania, and he's serving as a direct advisor to the Prime Minister on energy and economic policy.
Good morning, or good afternoon, depends on where you are.
Thank you, George. We have a longtime friend of the Atlantic Council, a member of its International Advisory Board, Ms. Beata Daszyńska-Muzyka, who is the president of the management board of the Polish Development Bank, BGK. And in that capacity, she is a key founder and chairman of the supervisory board of the 3Cs Investment Fund. You could argue she's the founder of the 3Cs Investment Fund.
Good morning, good afternoon.
Great to see you, Beata.
Thank you.
From the Polish government, we have Mr. Maciej Kubicki, who's the director of the 3C Secretariat in the Chancellery, the President of Poland. He directly advises President Duda on the 3Cs and other key issues. Welcome, Maciej.
Welcome, everybody. It's great to be here.
And we have Ambassador Gediminas Barbuls, who's Ambassador at Large for Connectivity in the 3Cs Initiative of the Republic of Lithuania. He brings a long career as a senior diplomat, having served as Lithuania's ambassador to Japan and Belgium, among other senior posts. Gediminas, good to see you. Let me start off with throwing a question to Maciej, getting a little bit of a look back on the 3Cs initiative before we start looking forward. Maciej, Poland has been a key leader in the 3Cs from the very beginning. Warsaw hosted the second 3C summit in 2017 and included the US president, and he with the Croatian president, of course, helped launch the 3Cs initiative. Looking back over those 7 years, what do you see as initiative's key accomplishments, and what does it need to do differently now based on that experience?
Yeah, let me start from expressing words of let's say appreciation that I'm here at the presidential administration, working for the president, who was one of the co-founders of this beautiful format. So I'm very happy to run this 3SI portfolio. Regarding your question, it's been 7 years since this initiative was initiated. We have to remember that at the very beginning it was mere a political concept, and it's great to see that after a few years it really translated into something more operational. It's great to see that we have been able to, despite many obstacles and sometimes very different views, we have been able to design a comprehensive toolbox for this format. Within this toolbox, you may find today, for example, 3SI summits and business fora. We can find 3Cs Initiative Investment Fund, obviously. There's a list of priority projects with progress report, which is updated every year. We have a CE Plus Stock Exchange Index. We have 3Cs Local Government Congress in Lublin. The last week's edition attracted as many as over 1,000 participants. There's a new initiative, which is 3Cs University Network, the Civil Society Forum, 3SI Network of Chambers of Commerce. We have a website, we have a unified visual communication scheme. So there's been a really significant progress made over these years. If we are talking about the key accomplishments, I think that it's worth mentioning that we were able actually to create a platform which is well designed and well suited to define and execute our region's strategic interests. And I think that it has not been the case before it emerged as the 3SI initiative. I guess that the most important issue is that the region's voice is only starting to be heard in the European Union, and the 3SI, I'm sure that the 3SI was made it possible to break mental barriers many politicians in our regions were prone to. To a certain degree, it helped build the region's assertiveness, and it developed the specific regional DNA that we are so much aware of currently.
Pretty impressive. I mean, you have the business forum, you have the summits, you have the toolboxes, you have the engagement in the private sector through the chambers. This is an initiative that I've always described as having, very steady progress. It may not be explosive, but it's steady and firm, and that's pretty important. And of course, the institutional core of the 3Cs, I would argue, is the 3Cs Investment Fund, which is a bold and innovative initiative. Beata, you personally rolled out this initiative with President Duda, and if I remember correctly, in 2018 at the Bucharest summit with letters of intent, and then you launched the fund. I think I had the pleasure of being there, privilege of being there in February of 2020 in Riga. And now it's a fund with over $1 billion. It's made 4 or 5 significant assets. What do you see as the next phase of the fund?
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us, and let me take this opportunity to thank you very much to Atlantic Council to be our very important partner for these initiatives, because without you, it won't be possible to develop this initiative, to be honest. And of course, the 3Cs initiative is very important for our region because it builds the cooperation on the many dimensions that we have. And the presidential level, what Maciej said, it is very important. It gives us as a political umbrella for this initiative. Of course, the second dimension, it is a ministerial governmental dimension, how governmental and the ministry, especially the infrastructure, energy and digital, have to cooperate to build this connectivity and the access north-south. The third dimension, it is of course business dimension, including the financial institution. And we are the part of this third dimension. The 3Cs investment fund, it is as a cornerstone that gives the many investors, many interlocutors during our discussion, that it is something tangible. It is really, and we want to invest in this region to build the infrastructure which builds the connectivity and the understanding of our needs in this region. Let me to share with you all audience what is the figures. Till 2030, we have to spend over 650 billion euro to increase our infrastructure only in logistic, transportation, energy, and digital infrastructure, which could be comparable to the infrastructure which already exists in the western part of Europe. It is a huge challenge, but now we are facing new challenge, because when the war in Ukraine has started, after the very depressing aggression from Russia, we have to be ready to answer also for these needs, how to be ready to support Ukraine through our infrastructure that we have in this region, how we as the eastern flank of NATO are ready to answer for this need and to support Ukraine. So it is many dimensions, and we have to be ready, and we have to develop this initiative to be ready to answer for all these needs. In terms of investment fund, yes, it is over 1 billion euro that we collect in the 3Cs fund, and the 5 investments are already in place. The sixth one, we are under the negotiations, and almost we are finalized to use all this money that we have in this fund. So now it is time to decide, okay, what and how we should build another, let me call this vehicle, which will support this huge needs that we have in this region. During the summit in Riga, we underlined that we identify the field that we want to address as a whole region in as innovation, how to build the innovation cooperation between our countries, and we are focused how to set up the new vehicle innovation fund. It is our group of development region. We had a very nice discussion with our Romanian colleagues who are in place with us. So thank you very much for this conversation. And we all together are saying this is the right time and place that we have to develop. We shouldn't forget about our responsibility in the face of our society, which are living in this region, because we through these investments, we are increasing the quality of life of our society. And at the same time, we are giving the example, for instance, to Ukraine, it is worth to fight about the freedom and how to learn from this part of Europe, how to recover their economy when the war will over. So maybe the broader context, but this is something what I wanted to share with you. And I want to thank you very much once more. And in 5 minutes, I have to run for another meeting, but Krzysztof, in the name of my stay here and will be to the end of this meeting. Thank you very much.
Let me just throw a quick, perhaps shallow question, but you know, the whole principle of the 3Cs is to leverage private capital, and the 3Cs fund of course, operates on a commercial basis with the intent of making investments, not just because they're good, but because they will be profitable. Do you have a sense of what kind of return your initial 5 investments are making?
I can share with you the average. It is between 12 to 14% of rate of return. So it's the all information you can find on the 3Cs Fund website. So it's something that we promote. It is worth to spend this money for this infrastructure that we are building here.
That's got to be amazingly attractive, I think, to the private sector to get it, to see a fund that's getting a 12 to 14% return. That's impressive.
And maybe it is good to underline that the most of investment are focusing on the green energy, renewable energy, and the digital, and it is more suitable for the private sector. So I think it is the good success that we achieved through this.
Here, here. Well, Beata's raised several really important issues. I mean, she mentioned a $650 billion infrastructure requirement, and some like to look at that and go, that's an infrastructure gap between Central and Eastern Europe that has imposed opportunity costs that come with connectivity, potential prosperity, potential business. Another way to look at it is as a $650 billion opportunity. Think about the economic capacity that will be unleashed as that development gets developed. Think about the prosperity it will generate. Think about the connectivity it will create with Western Europe and how it will enhance the economic resilience of the region, and with more north-south corridors, military security. And of course, Beata raised an important issue, which I hope we'll dig into deeply in this discussion, is what is the 3Cs relationship with Ukraine? So let me turn to George. George, Bucharest is going to be hosting the 3Cs Summit and Business Forum this September, 6th and 7th September. It's the second time your country is hosting this forum and this summit, which demonstrates not only your commitment, your nation's commitment to the 3Cs, but its leadership role in the 3Cs. George, what are going to be the objectives and deliverables that will define the Bucharest 2023 Summit and Business Forum?
Thank you, Ian. Nice to be here. Always a pleasure to talk to the Atlantic Council. You have always been a platform for dialogue for us, for the eastern part of Europe. It's maybe because I work at the government, but I would like to give it a little bit of broader perspective and not just look at it as an investment fund for with a certain amount of return that would be analyzed by private investors. At the end of the day, I think we should look at the 3Cs Initiative Forum as a political platform for the eastern flank of Europe. It is a way in which all the countries from the eastern side get to talk on a single voice. And by no means this is not a message that is supposed to be against the EU. On the contrary, we want to be heard and we want to sit at the table that is according to our geopolitical position at this point. So I think we should look back at the beginning of this initiative and see it as what it was, a political forum in order to increase infrastructure and connectivity on a north and south axis. And this forum needs a tool, and I would see the tool as being the investments. And let's not forget that the biggest investors so far in the fund are the countries, the governments, through the infrastructure projects that we finance, either by state budgets or by EU funding. We are the biggest ones, the biggest players in the field of the 3Cs initiative, unifying the infrastructure. And when I'm saying infrastructure, don't just think about transportation. I'm saying also digital information infrastructure, energy infrastructure, cyber defense, and all the things that could that are a reality, unfortunately, in these days that we live in. So I would see the summit as a means and the funds as a tool to reach that purpose. In that regard, Romania will announce in the months to come its increasing participation in the fund. So we will increase the budget that we allocated to the fund. The amounts will be announced by the bigger officials than me, so you will have to wait for that. Also, there was a lot of talk about Ukraine, and you know very well that we were together with Poland and other countries on the Eastern flank, we were one of the first countries that welcomed refugees, and we were one of the first countries that helped them. But let's not forget Moldova, and let's not forget Georgia. These are countries that are more or less in the same situation that Ukraine is. Of course, they don't have a war in their country, but they're as vulnerable as Ukraine was before the war started, and still is so. These are countries that should be also considered as partners, and these are partners that we should look into the future when we project the investment that we want to do. As you might know, our president was recently on a tour in South Asia. He invited like-minded countries like Japan or South Korea to also take a look at this initiative and maybe come in and analyze the investment, the potential investment that it has. Because I would like to underline a thing. Eastern Europe has a lot of room for growth. This difference in infrastructure that we talked about, 600, Beata was saying about 650 billion, I see it as opportunity for business, and there is room for growth for somebody who wants to invest in an area that is politically stable, that is within the EU, and that is within the NATO. So if I were an investor, I would definitely look at a market that is starting to grow, and it will explode in the next years. That's my 2 cents on it.
Thank you, George. So that's emerging to be a pretty important strategic agenda, not just driving forward the fund institutionally, but talking about, you know, what's the relationship between the 3 Cs initiative and the country as important as right now challenged, beleaguered, attacked as Ukraine, and thinking about the other countries outside the quote unquote the 3 Cs, which is Moldova, perhaps countries in the Western Balkans and Georgia. Yeah. Let me turn to Gediminas, our voice from the Baltic, so to speak, from Lithuania. Gediminas, when you look forward, when you look beyond the Bucharest summit, what do you think ought to be the primary objectives driving forward the 3 Cs?
Thank you, Jan. Happy also to join our esteemed panelists for this strategic discussion on the future of the 3 Cs. Well, I think first we have to accomplish what we have to accomplish in Bucharest, but of course then we need to move forward with our strategic agenda. I think we should stick to the very origins of the 3 Cs initiative, which is the enhancement of connectivity of our region. I think, of course, it is very important also to have in mind that this is a politically inspired initiative, and with what is happening, with what has happened since last year, you know, this brutal Russian war of aggression in Ukraine, I think the political importance of the initiative has grown. So we should not be shy about this political strength that this group of 12 countries radiates by itself, because it's a group of like-minded countries that, as it has been underlined. So I think fostering this political cohesiveness of the initiative is important, but again, working tediously on infrastructure or on connectivity projects, I think is just as important. You know, we in the Baltics we tend to be pragmatic, and I think from our perspective, it's important to push through with the strategic projects that have been compiled by on a list of strategic projects. From our perspective, in our region, of course, projects like, you know, Via Baltica, Rail Baltica, synchronization of our electricity grid with the Western Europe, those are things that we have to accomplish. They will not be accomplished without the EU assistance. Therefore, I fully subscribe to what has been said by our Romanian colleague, that this project is actually can be implemented only with the strong participation from the EU. So it's a kind of intra-European, intra-EU project that you know, that we are trying to push through. So working on projects is key. Also, I think this geographical axis has been mentioned several times already, north-south. This is indeed the new name in the game, and I think we should also try to make sure that with whatever projects we implement, that we really profoundly get rid of this east-west paradigm that used to exist in the region. We all used to depend on this east-west trade, east-west connections. I think the Three Seas initiative, it can certainly be very instrumental in getting rid irreversibly of these east-west connections, because I guess it's very difficult to imagine that we can come back to the business as usual with Russia in the foreseeable future. So working on making this north-south connectivity strong and genuine and resilient. I think this is something that should be on everyone's mind in Bucharest and indeed beyond.
Let me bring our conversation down to a little bit more prosaic. I'd be interested in hearing from each of you. What is your primary Three Seas project that you think is most important to the region and to the future of the Three Seas initiative? What is the rail or the transport, the digital project that you think should be given highest priority? I'll start with Gediminas.
Oh, well, some of the projects that I already mentioned that are important for us regionally here in the northern part of the Three Seas, the Rail Baltica, the Via Baltica projects, the synchronization of the electricity grid, those I think are key for us. But I think we have to also think in terms of connecting those projects together across the north-south. And I think also the intermodality is something that we should be thinking about. We are talking a lot here in our part of the Three Seas about the Rail Baltica, but then I think it would be important to think how those rail fast train connections they connect to air transportation, for example, to some air hubs, some airports. And by this, of course, then we can make sure that there is a genuine connectivity and much faster possibility for our citizens here in the region to travel to other parts in the world, but also within the Three Seas. Also, some projects that cross the whole region, such as Via Carpathia, of course. Those should be signature projects of the initiative that we have all support. We have to support all of us, and I think when we look at the list of those strategic projects, I think all of them they carry an important, a tremendous importance, and really we need to now start connecting the dots, connecting those various projects together.
George, what is it for Romania? Would it be rail to sea?
Rail to sea and Via Carpathia, but I would like to add two more projects, if I may.
Please.
The rail to sea and Via Carpathia are very important, of course. They're paramount.
Could you describe what they are, so that our viewers get a sense of what?
Basically, you are talking about a railway that comes from the north and ends at the Black Sea, and the Via Carpathia is a highway that crosses the Carpathians. So it's basically a railroad and a highway. But as I said earlier, we have to look also, when we say infrastructure, we don't just say roads and railways. We say digital infrastructure, energy infrastructure. And I would like to add two very important projects. The first is the gas pipeline from the Black Sea to the national grid, which will allow the gas that we will pull out from the Black Sea, from the Neptune Deep reservoir, to be put into the national and the European grid of gas. So in this regard, we will help Europe become more resilient in terms of energy independence from the Russian gas. Just to drop you some figures, Romania consumes now around 10 BCM of gas, natural gas, every year. And this Neptune Deep well that we are planning to explore in the next couple of years is 10 BCM itself. So it will double the capacity of Romania's gas exports. Another very dear project for us is the high voltage DC cable that has two parts. First of all, comes through the Black Sea from Georgia into Romania. And the second part comes from the Black Sea in Romania and connects west towards Hungary. Some would argue that these are not strictly Three Seas Initiative projects, but I would say that we have to look at the eastern flank as a pivotal point in Europe. We are the entrance to Europe, and also we are the exit to Europe. We have countries, like I said earlier, like Moldova, Ukraine, Georgia, that will need our help. So if we won't be able to allow the infrastructure to export this effort of reconstruction, of support towards those countries, then these projects the Three Seas Initiative will lose its focus. So besides Rail to Sea and Via Carpathia, I would like to add as very important these two projects, which is the gas pipeline will help the infrastructure of the supply of gas to Europe, and HVDC cable, electricity.
Thank you. Now I'll get a double hit from Poland here. Maciej, from your perspective, what should be should stand among the most important Three Seas projects?
Yeah, and this is not an easy question because, as you may know, on the list of 3SI priority projects, you may find something like 90 or more than 90 projects at the moment. And as you know, they reflect the three pillars, the three priority areas of the 3SI activities, meaning transportation, energy, and digital sector. And as we observe, these digital projects constitute only around 14% of all the projects that are listed as 3SI priority projects. So being aware of this imbalance and seeing that most effort is actually put to transportation and energy projects, we think that it is high time to work more on the digital pillar. Therefore, we are promoting since I think last year, we are promoting strongly these digital projects. Our Ministry of Foreign Affairs has been engaged in many activities across the region to run the debate. We are very happy to see also Atlantic Council being engaged in this dialogue. I was personally attending a few months ago a very interesting discussion on these issues. Just to focus more on different aspects than this digital one, I just want to say that we have already seen the success of this work that has been done within the portfolio of 3SI priority projects in energy sector. Because as you know, we would not have been able to run our economies through the times of crisis when Russia imposed this energy crisis on us. So it is thanks to the Baltic Pipe, it is thanks to Poland-Lithuania gas interconnector, it is thanks to Poland-Slovakia gas interconnector, it is also thanks to the LNG terminal in Świnoujście, but also in Klaipeda, that we were able to strengthen the resilience of our region. So I would say that from this point of view, these projects were the most important. If we are talking about the logistical or transportation side, I would say that Via Carpathia, but thankfully this Via Carpathia road is almost finished on the Polish side. So it was a priority from the very beginning, but it went very well, and we are almost done with it. Currently, in the transportation sector, I think that the most important project is the Solidarity Hub, the huge intermodal logistics center in central Poland, which is supposed to be connected with other countries in the region, also through projects like Rail Baltica, for example. but not only. So I would say that it is really difficult, extremely difficult, to point to one, two, or three specific projects. All of them have very significant value.
Thank you, Maciej. Christoph, you may be in an awkward position as a fund manager, but are you allowed to pick a favorite project?
Yeah, thank you, Jan. So sure, we need to watch out for specifics when we are, talking about the fund. But just to build on what previous speakers said, I just want to focus on security, cybersecurity as well. It was quite clear that digital is the next step for the 3Cs initiative. The reasoning behind that is it's clear and obvious for the fund as well, because if you're investing in assets, you would like to have this asset secure. And, we're living in certain time now here in Europe, bordering Ukraine, which is in a huge crisis, attacked by Russia. And, at the same time, we're planning and still building the infrastructure, roads, energy sector, and never before security, cybersecurity would be very important, since next phase of the war might be cyber war. So I think that digital, we need to be very vocal on that. I think that this is also, I'm hearing this in different capital cities of the 3Cs countries, debate on how to invest more in cybersecurity, in security. And this would be also very important for investors, not only investors in our fund, but investors like United States that hugely invested across the region in different production assets, companies, multinationals that present here also are very interested to secure their assets. So securing asset security would be, I think, the next huge topic for 3Cs initiative. And of course, pipeline of projects generating revenue as well would follow, because as you mentioned, Jan, we are looking not only on interesting projects, but also at projects that can deliver revenues. So cybersecurity revenue generating is the next phase, I think, of the initiative. Thank you.
Yeah. I've always thought that in the digital sector could provide the 3Cs one of its quickest returns, so to speak, because laying, for example, a 3Cs digital highway across the region, something that could be done relatively cheaply and relatively quickly. But Christoph mentioned Ukraine, and we need to address that. Before I push a question out to you all, let me just remind our viewers that if you have any questions you want to ask our panelists, please type them in to askac.org. That's askac.org, and we'll try to incorporate your questions into the discussion. Christoph and all of you have mentioned Ukraine, and the defining challenge before the transatlantic community today is, of course, Russia's brutal and unjustified invasion of Ukraine. It's an attack that's cost countless loss of lives, but also an immense destruction of Ukraine's economy, including its infrastructure. How is this war, which is really occurring on the frontier of the current membership realm of 3Cs, how has it affected the initiative? Has it added urgency to the project? Has it made it more difficult to resource infrastructure development in the 3Cs region? Has it made it more difficult to attract private capital? Let me start with Maciej.
Yeah, thank you, Ian, for this question. Indeed, it's a major issue for this 3SI debate at the moment. The impact of the war in Ukraine on the region was huge, and obviously it also affected the 3SI. I would say that the most important issue right now is to let's say define clearly the status of Ukraine, or the relation between Ukraine and the 3Cs initiative. As you may know, in Riga, Poland was a strong promoter of getting Ukraine on board the 3SI. And we agreed to let's say establish a kind of relationship which is named participating partner. So this is the status for Ukraine. Ukraine is, since last year, since the summit in Riga, has been 3Cs initiatives participating partner. Now, there has not been too much dialogue on, or too much internal debate on what it really means. The beauty of this is that it can mean anything, and we can really, be flexible here. But I'm sure that the 3SI partners will want to make this status clear, especially that we have Moldova also in the line. And most probably, for at the next 3SI summit in Bucharest, Moldova will be granted the same status. So this is one aspect. Another aspect is the projects. So for sure, this war in Ukraine, first of all, it already proved that the 3SI is a good tool to build resilience and to make our countries less susceptible to the negative effects of such turbulences. Krzysztof mentioned here that the cybersecurity, and indeed this is extremely important. Not everybody knows that from the beginning of the war in Ukraine, in Poland we have observed the increase of cyber attacks on our infrastructure by 300%. 300%. It's a huge number, and obviously all of these attacks come from the eastern direction. So for sure there's a huge potential here to increase our resilience in this field. I think also that something that naturally comes as a part of debate is the dual use of transportation infrastructure, especially railroads. So now we are talking more often about the dual use, meaning military and civilian use of the railroads in our region. So far, it has not been promoted so strongly. I mean, in the narratives around the 3SI, but I think that the conditions in which we are right now create this natural field or natural space for strengthening the debate on this.
Mm-hmm. Let me follow on the membership issue with George, specifically for Ukraine. Why not membership for these countries? They're part of Central Europe, they're democracies, they share some of the same infrastructural challenges and present some of the same infrastructural opportunities as the current 3Cs countries. Isn't it time to perhaps consider giving Ukraine, and for that matter, maybe Moldova, perhaps some of the countries in the Western Balkans, if not Georgia, membership in this initiative?
Who said not? We didn't never say not. We didn't say no. Of course, it is a thing on the table. It is on the agenda. It will be talked, and I believe that what happened in Ukraine and Russia's aggressions makes for a stronger case for the 3Cs initiative, and makes for a stronger case for a stronger 3Cs initiative. We need to be united on the eastern flank. We need to prove resilience, and we need to prove deterrence. So sure, we can talk about welcoming new members like Ukraine and Moldova, not because they are on the eastern flank, but because we have to prove a point. We have to let the aggressor see that we will not be intimidated, that we will stand here together like we stood here together throughout the history. So sure. Always.
Gedimas, I got it. The Lithuanian diplomat at the table. I have to ask you the same question.
You mean about the potential membership of Ukraine and in general on Ukraine? Yeah, of course, we would be happy to welcome Ukraine in our midst. I think de facto already, as it has been said, in Riga, Ukraine has become a full-fledged in a way, participant in the 3Cs activities. But I think in general on this, impact of Russian aggression in Ukraine on the 3Cs, I think Yeah, on one hand, it caused some obvious, of course, difficulties with attracting maybe investments to this part of the world in general. But also I think it in a way consolidated the initiative. It created an additional sense of purpose for the initiative, and it also created opportunities precisely for us to help Ukraine, because who else, if not this region, knows Ukraine best? I mean, we have historic affinities with Ukraine, so we know how their system works. Our mentalities are similar, so I think we have a really a kind of moral duty within the three Cs to help Ukraine with pushing reforms through, with helping to ensure due diligence on projects, and also working out together some projects of common interest, and also by maybe creating connectivity projects that would be relevant for both the three Cs countries and Ukraine, which would also actually help Ukraine's economy, because if we have, for example, energy interconnectors that are stronger and more versatile between Ukraine and GSI countries, then Ukraine would be able to export its resources eventually. I mean, when the conditions are ripe. Electricity. Ukraine is a very rich country with, it is a huge producer of electricity. It also has, potentially, gas resources and rare earths, even, those materials that are needed for the green transition. And Ukraine has those things. So by creating the net of interconnectors, between Ukraine and the three Cs countries, we are helping Ukraine and economy basically. So I think we, as the three SI countries, we have this duty, and it's now up to us, of course, to figure out together with Ukraine how we work together.
That's an important set of issues you've raised in terms of the relationship, the potentials of the relationship between Ukraine and three Cs. I'd like to dig a little bit more into that and what three Cs could do to help assist Ukraine in its economic reconstruction, perhaps even during wartime, and with the furthering of its integration into the wider European market. And let me turn to Christoph, and I should mention that I don't know that we properly introduced Christoph, but Christoph Senger is the Director of Coordination of Strategic Projects at BGK, Poland's development bank. Christoph, when you're sitting in a financial institution, what ideas are you thinking about, you and Beata? What are you thinking about, and how the three Cs can play an active, tangible role in assisting Ukraine?
Yes, so I think that we need to distinguish financing during conflict and post-conflict financing. That's a distinction to be made in terms of how you engage international multilateral financial institutions, development banks as ours, into financing reconstruction, but also helping to rebuild during the crisis. So still international effort needs to be made to help Ukrainians rebuild necessary infrastructure during the crisis, because still in Kiev, the business is running, day-to-day deliveries, day-to-day life. People need to get coffee, need to get to the shops, need to get the business running. So still effort is needed day by day. And this is more for development institutions, multinational development institutions act together with banks as ours, so around the three Cs region, development banks, to head at that stage. That's quite difficult to get the financing during the conflict. But in terms of after conflict, we need to think of two streams of financing. Critical infrastructure, like roads, hospitals, energy, what have you. That is not revenue generating. That's public infrastructure, need huge grants, huge efforts of multinational institutions with guarantees and line of credits help to rebuild. but there is also commercial side of that. We would like to see Ukraine successful after the crisis. That means attracting foreign direct investment. Attracting foreign direct investment needs export infrastructure, because nowadays there is no FDI without export. So we would need to integrate export infrastructure, I mean, in roads, connecting to ports, connecting deliveries to the customers from within and from infrastructure. And that's I think huge opportunity for investment funds investing in infrastructure post conflict. So I think that those two need to be distinguished, and each will need a huge amount. And there is one thing that we need to focus on as well in terms of helping with financing post-conflict infrastructure as one very important prerequisite. Ukraine needs to win this war and get back territory, because 80% of damage is on the territory that now is occupied. So that is prerequisite to rebuild infrastructure, rebuild Ukraine as well.
You know, as an outside observer of the 3 Cs and as a big advocate for the 3 Cs, or at least an enthusiastic advocate for the 3 Cs, I can't see a higher strategic imperative, a higher moral imperative, and for that matter, an opportunity for leadership for the 3 Cs to step forward and tangibly assist Ukraine in its hour of need. I mean, I can imagine a 3 Cs fund specifically tailored to the risk associated with economic reconstruction and integration of Ukraine in a time of war. That's a big thought, probably fit for another panel. We're approaching our ending hour, so I want to give you each an opportunity to pitch why governments, and above all, why should private capital, the leaders of our financial communities, come to the 3 Cs Bucharest Summit and Business Forum this September to participate, and above all, to invest in the initiative. And I'm going to go in reverse order and end with George since he's the host. But I'll start with our polls. So I'll start with Maciej.
Thank you, Ian. I think the key issue here is that the 3 Cs region is a vibrant land of lots of opportunities. And I will just tell you that today in the morning I was taking part in the opening session of a huge business delegation from the United Arab Emirates. They came to Czechia, then they moved to here to Poland, and there's been lots of questions from Emirati business people, from the representatives of investment funds, also not only about Poland but also about the region. We have the same dialogue with the Japanese. They come here, they want to see the projects. So what we need now is actually to work out good projects for them, because as we know, some of them, they do not want to invest in the fund, but they want to invest directly in the project. So we need a vehicle, and maybe it's a good idea also for this business forum in Bucharest. We need a vehicle that could aggregate the projects from the region that have this 3 Cs regional value. So come here, and the returns that you can get here will be really satisfactory.
Christoph.
So I guess I'm preaching the choir, but see region as a one asset. See region not a single country, but 3 Cs region is a single asset. You can invest in the asset that will produce a decent rate of return. As you know, Asian tigers back in the day, you can say that now we have 3 Cs tiger to invest in, and really just revisit this region, and you will be surprised how investable it is.
And you've got the fund for that with 12 to 14% return. Gedimas.
Yeah, so a short pitch. Well, with investors, I think they should see this region as a success story, basically. Because if you look at the region, where the region was like in the beginning of our independence and where it is now, I mean, it's like a day and night. The development, the improvement of the our economies. We went through many very significant and profound reforms, and we carried them out successfully. We managed to join all possible clubs, NATO, EU, and everything. We got rid, as far as at least us and the Lithuania and Baltics are concerned, we got rid of this dependency on Russian energy. This was a huge undertaking, to reorient completely our supply chains for as far as energy is concerned. So we can do things in the region. I think.
Gerimas? George?
Yes.
I think
I
we
think
lost
we have a
Gerimas.
technical
I'm gonna
glitch.
turn to you. You get to have the final swing as the host of this year's 3C Summit and Business Forum.
Yes, I did the pitch at the beginning, if you remember, for the investors.
did.
But I would like to reiterate. I was thinking about it. I would summarize it in 3 words: stability, security, and growth. We are a region which is a member of NATO. We are a region which is a member of EU, and we are a region with a huge potential for growth. These disparities that we are talking about compared to the western part of Europe are just a potential for investors. The return rates that you get here, I really doubt that you will get in a very mature economy like Germany or France or other big economies in the West. So come here. We are stable. We are here to stay. We are committed. We are together, and there is a lot of things to be done.
Thank you. Well, you heard it. We're closing. You got a great case for why 3Cs is an opportunity and a strategic imperative. It's an initiative that, as Christoph pointed out, combines the collective geoeconomic potential of a region rich in opportunity, 110 million people, $2 trillion in GDP, a growth rate that's tracking along even post-COVID around 3% per year, and with a fund that's the institutional core of the initiative that's currently on track with 12 to 14% return. It's a good return, it's a strategic return, and it's for a cause that really is ultimately good, the completion of a Europe that's whole and free. George, Christoph, Maciej, Gerimas, thank you for your time today. And to our audience, thank you for joining us for Warsaw Week. This culminates our Atlantic Council Warsaw Week programming. And I might add that tomorrow, the Atlantic Council will have its Atlantic Council debrief, the Atlantic debrief, featuring my brother, so I'm a little biased, but who's the ambassador to Poland. So please tune in to that tomorrow on Friday. Again, thank you all, and have a great week.
Thank you. Bye.